Welcome to Easy Elim Learning Simplified. My name is Ruth, and today we are going to be discussing on the introduction to chemistry. We are still on the introduction bit. Initially, we talked about matter, conductors and unconductors. We also discussed on drugs and drug abuse. So you can go back and watch out in the previous videos on these subtopics that we discussed and also get to understand how those uh, subtopics are going, also some of the things that we're going to discuss in the course of the chemistry. So for today, we are going to look at the role of chemistry to the society. We are also going to look at laboratory rules and some safety labels. And also, we are also going to tackle some questions in regards to what we are going to discuss today. So we will start by understanding the role of chemistry in the society. So the knowledge that we get from chemistry can help to open up different career pathways. For example, you can do agricultural chemistry, biochemistry, there is chemical education, we have chemical engineering, consumer product chemistry, environmental chemistry, we have food and flavor chemistry, forensic chemistry, and medicinal chemistry, and so much more. These are just examples of what you can be able to do with the knowledge of chemistry. And also, we know chemistry is used in different places, in the different manufacturing companies. For example, it is used to manufacture drugs to fight diseases. It's used in the production of food, which helps in fighting hunger. We know that there are some chemicals that have been produced that helps in planting of some chemicals or of some planting of some plants, and also other plants have been produced through chemical engineering. We know this helps especially with the growth of plants, and also which helps in the growth of food, which can curb that hunger. It also helps in the manufacture of alternative fabrics because the natural fabrics are very expensive. So it helps in making cheaper that knowledge, people to get that knowledge, and they're able to make cheaper fabrics like nylon, polyester, and tetron. We're going to discuss on these synthetic fibers later on in Form 4. And then also it helps in the manufacture of plastics, which is still we are going to discuss in Form 4 as well. Some of these plastics are usually used for roofing. They are also used for packaging and domestic use. It is used in the manufacture of detergents, the ones that we use for washing. It's also the knowledge can be used to help in the production of fuels for transport. We're also going to talk about the large scale production of wells in Form 3 when we talk about fractional distillation of crude oil. So that is something that we are going to look at. There are so many other ways also chemistry is used in the society, and we are also going to look at some of those ways as we progress with the syllabus. So some of the things that we have to consider in chemistry is laboratory rules. The reason why we have laboratory rules is because the lab is one of the buildings that uh, chemical experiments are usually made, and it is important for us to be able to know the rules that are required for us to use that lab safely. So why do we need these rules? First of all, they help us to avoid accidents and injuries, and also they help us to avoid damage and breakage of apparatus. We don't want to keep on like replacing these apparatus and fittings all the time. It also helps in reducing the wastage of laboratory chemicals. So, what are some of these laboratory safety rules and precautions? So, one of them is never run while in the laboratory. The reason why we don't run is because we might injure others and also ourselves. We usually work in a calm manner, even when there are some emergency, because we know that if we run, it might even cause more injury. We never taste or eat anything in the lab. This we avoid poisoning. We are working with chemicals in the lab, and these chemicals can spread. Some of them are very poisonous. So if we go to the lab to eat there, or we carry things to eat in the lab, we might cause poisoning in the process. And anytime we want to try out any experiments, it is important we consult our teachers so that we can avoid those accidents. Then we label all chemicals in use to avoid confusion. We are going to be using our own labels as well as we do some of the experiments, especially like in titration, and you require the student to put that labels. Always label them. You always be given labels in the lab. And then always use clean spatula for scooping substances. We are going to look at the apparatus, and specifically spatula, we will say it is used for scooping solid substances, and we do not use our hands to scoop so that we will minimize contamination and also injury. And we always hold test tubes and boiling tubes using a test tube holder. So when we are heating, we don't touch with our hands, we don't hold them in our hands. We use a test tube holder specifically made for test tubes and for boiling tubes to avoid being burnt. When also we are heating substances, we never let open the air tube to face ourselves or the people around us. Sometimes when you are heating these solutions, they might spat out, and it might even get into the eyes and causing injury as a result. And then whenever we're doing some reactions in flasks, we don't look them at them directly. We said it might cause those injuries when the liquid spurts out. And then we do not smell gases directly. We actually waft. We have waft the gases near our noses on a far distance to avoid poisoning that can happen very quickly. Some gases in the lab are very poisonous. And then, if we have, in cases where we are producing anything that is poisonous, we do it in a special room or a special cupboard. We call it a fume chamber or fume cupboard. And in the cases where, if there are some students who are not able to access, you are advised to use the outdoors to do some of those experiments. And then also, it is advisable to keep flammable substances away from flames. If they are flammable, it means they can easily catch fire, and this can cause accidents in the laboratory. And then always report accidents in the lab to the lab technician or to the teacher around, so that they can be able to support and give you support very quickly and action in case there is an injury. And then when we have issues in the lab, some emergency in the lab, we do not scramble for the exit because it might cause more injuries and also hinder like people from escaping. And then when we are working with flames and the Bunsen burner, we always put it off when we are done so that we can minimize wastage and also avoid accidents in the lab. And then if any kind of chemical gets on your skin, you rinse it very quickly with a lot of water. There's a lot of water that is stationed in the lab, and it can help to reduce the itching and the pain. And also, when we are done with our reactions, we need to dispose some chemicals well. And also, there are some cases where we use some disposable apparatus. Like, let's say we use like the filter paper. Sometimes you may need to use it. We do not dispose it anyhow. And also some metals. You are supposed to ask the teacher or laboratory technician where you're supposed to dispose and if those chemicals can be disposed, because there are some that are going to block the pipes if you dispose them. And then always work on a clean bench. When you get to the lab, you remove everything on the benches, your books. You remove anything that might hinder you from doing the experiment or might cause and then always read labels on reagents before using them. Some of the reagents are very sensitive. They might maybe require you not to use it in air. Some of them are very explosive. It's important for you to be able to read these labels before you use. Next, we are going to look at some of the safety symbols in the lab. We do have more safety symbols and also safety regions in the laboratory, where we have, for example, the fire extinguisher. We also have the mat. There's that fire mat, where that is used to put out fire. We also have the lab coats that usually help, like when you are doing experiments. There's also the eye wash that helps when some things are spilled in the eye. So it is important to identify those safety places in the lab or safety equipment in the lab. And also we have safety symbols that are on bottles and containers, and they tell us more about what is going to be in the container. So we have like a flammable symbol, we have the compressed symbol and corrosive symbol. Oxidizing, it means when you expose it into the atmosphere, it can react very badly with air. It can oxidize. We have harmful, health hazard, we have toxic and also explosive. It means it explodes very easily in air. So next you're going to look at some questions in regards to what we have discussed. So we'll start with the first question. What is chemistry? So we said chemistry is the study of matter, is the study of matter. And what specifically about matter? We are studying we are studying the composition, properties and changes that matter undergoes. That is what we study in chemistry. And then the next question is the role of chemistry in our society. We know that it is used in manufacturing drugs, in the drugs industry. It's used to manufacture fibers, and these are the cheap ones and locally available ones. It is used in the food industry, and so on and so forth. So, another last question is any 5 rules? We said we do not run in the lab, it might cause injuries. When we are burning substances, the mouth of the test tube or beaker should face away from your face because the solutions might spurt and get into your eyes. You should also consult whenever you want to start an experiment. You should read the labels of containers before you start doing experiment and so forth. You can go back to the video and check the rules that we have already discussed and see and review them and also see the specificity. There are some that are used for heating, there are some that are used for specific experiments.